Good morning, Keith. How you doing?
Good morning, Rick. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Is it nice and modest temperatures up there? Really beautiful winter in Phoenix?
I think it is. We've had a couple cold spells here, like a lot of places, but nothing like they're getting in the Northeast or the South. They're
Oh,
really getting it.
man, it's rough over there. I know that those areas tough.
It
So
is.
I want to talk today a little bit about maybe being satisfied with something that we don't think of as perhaps the optimal. And by that, I mean, we're always thinking about wanting to lift other people up. And I think when we lift other people up or try to help their lives, we are actually helping lift ourselves up. But I think sometimes when we try to help other people, we may not have the right equipment for it. We may not be able to help them because what they need is beyond our help, or they need another kind of help. And that's when our egos sometimes, don't like that. I think that one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that when we're helping other people, lifting others up, trying to help them, that there is a very important demarcation, and that is you can't help to the extent where your help actually starts to become counterproductive. Now, that's a hard concept to take, and it requires a little bit of introspection to decide whether you're helping somebody because you want the credit for it, or you're helping them because you want them to get better. And that's a big deal. But I think if we start with the idea that we don't want to ever cause somebody more trouble by trying to help them, we have to be very, very careful about not making the problem worse, about
Mm.
not trying to help to a degree where we really don't know what we're doing and we end up making it worse. That's a very tough thing. And I know in my law practice, that's been an area that I've worked on a lot, because the law is such a broad area, just like medicine. It's such an enormous amount of material. You can only have very good mastery of part of it, not the whole thing. But the tendency is for people to look at you as if you know all of the solutions to every legal problem. And the ego for the lawyer is, maybe I do, or maybe you don't even think of it, but you start thinking that you might do it and might be able to give them some advice in an area that's totally outside your expertise. Now, that's on a professional level, but I also think that example of trying to do too much
Mm.
for someone could actually be a problem in our personal lives. You have someone who's clinically depressed and you're trying to counsel them as a friend. You have to be very careful not to do more harm. So I guess I was just thinking about that the other day when I had a personal issue with a family member, and I didn't think that I was getting through, and I had to stop and recognize whatever I was doing was likely to be more of a problem than it was a help.
Mm. I like that, Rick. Yeah, it sounds like, I wanted you to do this topic because you said something a few, months ago, and I wrote it down, and it was, if you can't help other people, at least don't hurt them.
Mm.
And that just really resonated with me. That and I think about that too, is I want to be a contribution to the spaces in which I, have the opportunity to move in, the places I get to go, the people I get to spend time with. And I have had an opportunity at Mayo Clinic, which has been really special, this opportunity, because it's allowed me to take it from Mayo and to just observe it and observe this kind of phenomenon or this observation in other areas of my life. I think oftentimes we say we have a work life, we have a personal life. No, you have one life. It's all life. You don't act differently at work than you do, at home. You hopefully are working on yourself in a way that you show up, loving and kind everywhere you go. And I remember in past relationships that I didn't do that. There was Keith at work who was like professional and on, and then the people at home got, what's left of me, or they got, 1.0 for sure, more times than not. And so when I think about this idea of how it relates to Mayo Clinic, is that I have an opportunity in my job there to really see and experience colleagues in different work divisions. One day I may be in transplant, you know, another day I may be with the folks in cardiac thoracic surgery, or I may be with folks who are creating education for our learners at Mayo, or I'm in the lab. I'm somewhere different at Mayo. But at Mayo is interdisciplinary. So all these different divisions, they affect each other. They work in concert, even when you don't know it. And oftentimes, if you don't get out of that particular division, you have no idea of its effect on you or your effect on it, because it could be several degrees of separation from direct contact. But I get to see how a decision made here, an action or an action that's made that occurs affects the whole. So I'm able to bring this perspective back to say, hey, listen, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but this is one thing I learned when I was in this department about what happens here. And oftentimes what's happening is they have no idea that the decisions that they are making are harming others in another division. They have no idea. Or if they do one little thing that's asked of them, if they consider taking this one action, it actually helps the other group significantly. And so I've been thinking about that in my own behavior. Like if I'm kind to someone, like, is that going to have a positive effect, of all the other people that this person will come in contact with? If I'm not kind, if I'm indifferent to someone, in my feedback, if I'm not thoughtful in it, how am I affecting that person? I could take it lightly, but I could be having, a negative impact on them. So one thing that I've learned in terms of, if you can't help other people, at least don't hurt them. I have this thing that I've learned to say is, in place of me being super opinionated like I can be, and I take opinionated, I say opinionated now. Before I used to say, instead of me telling you what's true, but really it's my opinion, I've learned to say to myself when something comes up, no comment. And by me having no comment on the topic, oh, what do you think about this celebrity or this athlete, about what? I got no comment. And it's not that I don't care, it's I do care, because nothing that I'm going to say is necessary. It's more than likely not going to be truthful, and it probably won't be kind. So if it doesn't pass through those three gates, Rick, anything that I say is actually doing harm. It's hurting people, which goes back to your point. If you can't help other people, at least don't hurt them. At least don't hurt them. And you hear this rhetoric in the news and media and things like that. Are you raising the space that you enter, or are you hurting it? Are you lifting people up, or are you harming them? Like, if you keep it that simple, you would have a lot less to say. You'd be really mindful of the actions that you take. And that has really, really helped me when I try to act as if my life experience is the same that other people have had. Like my experience as a person whose biological race happens to be Black, where I can say, hey, listen, my experience has been overwhelmingly people have been kind to me. Well, that's just my experience. Someone else may have had an experience that's completely different, to where it's the exact opposite, that most of the people that they've come in contact with, people have been unkind. And so that's their experience. It doesn't make mine right, or I can't generalize my experience for everybody else. And so in that case, I have no comment. And in doing so, I've learned to, if I can't help people, to at least not to harm them.
Well, that's beautiful, Keith. That is really quite a lesson, and a beautiful, beautiful explanation of how you handle not contributing to the annoyance, the noise of what we do when we offer opinions or get into arguments. I love that idea, that you consider whether it's true, whether it needs to be said, whether it's kind. Those are three wonderful things to check. Very tough to do, but I admire that you've found a tool to help you with that. I think that's terrific.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Yeah, that tool came out of this book that we've been reading as part of the practice by this doctor at Mayo Clinic he's a former doctor at Mayo Clinic, his name is Amit Sood. And
Mm,
he says that, and he says, before you say anything, consider that those words must pass through three gates.
mhm,
Is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary?
mhm,
And I felt myself actually in situations to where I'm ready to say something. Like I want to say something that's going to be sarcastic, or it's going to be like this opinion that I'm passing on as fact. And then, but other people are talking. So I have to kind of wait my turn. And then thankfully they're talking because it gives me an opportunity to see if what I'm about to say is going to pass through those three gates. And by holding my tongue, the moment passes, I don't say anything. And guess what? Nobody died. The world didn't stop because I didn't say something. No, I actually improved the mood by having noble silence. Actually improved, actually lifted the energy in the space by me not putting my 2 cents in. I didn't
yeah.
harm anybody.
That's right. Less is more sometimes. And when you think of it, what's the point of us needing everyone to know what our opinions are? Who cares? You know what your
Preach, Rick.
opinions are.
Preach.
Yeah. Who cares? It's totally unnecessary to have an opinion, unless you're in the business of trying to solve a problem and you're collaborating and you're working out things, of course. But what I'm talking about is something different. It's the idea that the ego is showing off. Here's my opinion, as if it mattered. It really doesn't. It might matter to you. Great. There's no need to share it.
Exactly. And you become so identified with that thought that you're trying to express that you're like, no, I have to get this out. No, you don't. No, you don't. As a matter of fact, please don't.
Please don't.
But you feel like you're giving birth to this thing and it has to come out. No, it's just some thought, and likely it's flawed. It's completely and more likely it's subjective. So just noble silence right now. Like that's a contribution to the space. And I'm learning to take more of those, Rick, to have more noble silence. So Rick, I love this, man. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Keith. That was great. I really enjoyed hearing that. That's wonderful. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Rick. And again, this thought was just so beautiful. If you can't help other people, at least don't hurt them. Wow, beautiful. Thank you. I love you.
I love you. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.